Hey guys, we are going to continue with She Stoops to Conquer today. We're going to start on page 157 with Act 3. Just to recap, the first two acts were pretty much all exposition and the introduction of the complication. We meet the Hardcastle family, Mr. and Mrs. Hardcastle, who are on their second marriage. Their children by their first marriages, Tony Lumpkin, who is Mrs. Hardcastle's son, Kate Hardcastle, who is Mr. Hardcastle's daughter, Constance Neville, who is Mrs. Hardcastle's niece, George Hastings and Charles Marlowe, who are coming down to meet the girls. Hastings is secretly engaged to Constance, and he wishes to elope with her. But the complication with them is that Mrs. Hardcastle wants Tony and Constance to get married because that way she will be able to maintain control of their combined inheritances. All right? Now, you also have Charles Marlowe, who is coming down to meet Kate at the behest of his father and Mr. Hardcastle. They hope that their children will hit it off, and like each other enough to get married. They have met once, and it was a complete and total disaster. Marlowe is, of course, he has a very, very odd reputation with women. If it's a woman who he feels like he is superior to her for reasons of economics or social standing, he's James Bond. He's going to go after her big time, and he's confident he'll get her. But if he meets a woman of his own social standing, a quote-unquote girl you'd bring home to mama, he has exactly no game whatsoever. He turns into a stuttering idiot. I have had an opportunity, since we last dealt with this, to find a recording of a full stage play of this story, and I've learned several things that I didn't know before. The setting of the play is 1773. I thought it was later, but that actually makes a lot of sense. They leave out a lot, and it makes the play flow much better, and it actually makes it funnier. But I'm guessing it was stuff that they thought would be beyond a high school classroom setting or inappropriate for a high school classroom setting. The second part, maybe, but given what you can find on the internet these days, not really. And the first part, no, absolutely not. You guys are not in any way intellectually impaired. You could handle this material, and you do it every day. So I do not agree with the editing of the story. I wish I had some way to share it with you, but unfortunately I do not. So what we're going to do today is we're going to start off with Act 3. All right? On page 157. And we start with Mr. Hardcastle. What could my old friend Sir Charles mean by recommending his son as the most modest young man in the town? That fellow modest? He has taken over my easy chair by the fireside already. He took off his boots and told me to take care of them. I'm curious to know how his rudeness affects my daughter. She will certainly be shocked by it. All right. And Kate comes in, and she has changed clothes into something much more plain, something much more appropriate for just hanging out around the house. You remember that earlier she was dressed up extremely fancy, and her dad was just like, "Why are you wearing that? You're just hanging around the house." Now she's changed into something much more plain. All right. Well, my Kate, I see you've changed your dress as I told you. And yet I believe there was no great reason, particularly when I recommended my modest gentleman to you as a lover today. You taught me to expect something unusual, and I found that the original was even more than the description. I was never so surprised in my life. I never saw anything like it. And the man of the world, too. He learned it all abroad. What a fool I was to think a young man could learn modesty by traveling. I fear he's been a good deal assisted by bad company and a French dancing master. You are mistaken, Papa. A French dancing master could never have taught him that timid look, that awkward speech, that bashful manner. Whose look? What manner, child? Mr. Marlowe's. His timidity struck me at the first sight. Then your first sight deceived you. He met me with a respectful bow, a stammering voice, and a look fixed on the ground. He met me with a loud voice, a lordly air, and a friendliness that made my blood freeze. One of us must surely be mistaken. If he is really what he has shown himself to be, he shall never have my consent. And if he really is the sheepish thing I saw, he shall never have mine. In one thing, then, we are agreed, to reject him. Yes, but upon conditions. For you might find him less rude, and I more confident. I don't know. The fellow is good-looking. And if we should find him so, but that's impossible. And as one of us must be mistaken, what if we go on to make further discoveries? Agreed. But depend on it, I'm in the right. And depend on it, I'm not much in the wrong. Okay, so the dad and the daughter here are comparing notes on Charles Marlowe. And each of them has gotten a very different picture of this guy. Mr. Hardcastle has seen, as he puts it, a rude bully. All right? This guy has just kind of walked up in his house. Admittedly, he thinks it's an inn. And just sort of taken over. He's, took his chair. He threw his shoes at him, told him to clean the mud off of him. His people have gotten drunk. In the actual play, he himself has decided not to drink, so therefore he tells his servants to get drunk for him. All right? And Mr. Hardcastle is just sort of like, man, I made a bad call. This is not the sort of dude I want for a son-in-law. He's got to go. Kate, on the other hand, has seen this bashful, wimpy little milksop of a man who excites her in no way, shape, form, or fashion. And obviously these are two irreconcilable perspectives. The dad says that he's been too much in the company of a French dancing master. So near as I've been able to tell, of course, the French automatically have the reputation for being, the great lovers of the world. But beyond that, a French dancing master, would be someone who would, be brought in to teach young people how to dance properly, how to do all the proper steps and all the formal dances of the time. They apparently had dreadful reputations. You did not leave your daughter alone with a French dancing master, or things could happen, and things could not be allowed to happen. And Kate says, no, Dad, he's definitely not been hanging out with a guy like that. And so Mr. Hardcastle, he's all for kicking him out right now. He's done with him. But Kate, she's heard about his reputation with women. Her dad obviously has seen something she has not. She wants to hear more. So she says, let's give him a little more time. And I hope you heard all that because I plugged in the headphones and the microphone, and I don't know if you actually heard anything I just said. I hope you did. I'm putting the headphones on with the microphone because there's noises and I can't hear myself talking. All right, so let's continue. All right. Tony comes running in with a jewel box. I've got them. Here they are. My cousin Con's jewels, necklaces and all. My mother shan't cheat the poor souls out of their fortune now. Oh, is that you? My dear friend, how have you managed with your mother? I hope you have amused her with pretending love for your cousin Constance. Our horses will be ready in a short time, and we shall soon set off. And here's something to take with you. Your sweetheart's jewels. But how have you got them from your mother? Ask me no questions, and I'll tell you no fibs. If I didn't have a key to every drawer in Mother's bureau, how could I go to the alehouse so often as I do? Zounds, here they are. Go, hurry! All right. So as he promised, Tony has stolen Constance's jewels from his mother and given them to Hastings because he does not want to marry Constance at all. He wants her out of his hair. And any way he can help that come into being, he's going to do that. All right. Enter Mrs. Hardcastle and Miss Neville. Indeed, Constance, you amaze me. Such a girl as you want jewels? There will be time enough for jewels, my dear, 20 years from now, when your beauty begins to want repairs. But what repair beauty at 40 will certainly improve it at 20, madam. Besides, I believe I can't easily get at them. They may be missing for all I know. Then why don't you... This is Tony to his mom. Then why don't you tell her so at once? Say that they're lost, and call me to bear witness. You know, my dear, I'm only keeping them for you when you two marry. So if I say they're gone, you'll bear me witness, will you? Never fear. I'll say I saw them taken with my own eyes. I desire them but for a day, madam, just to look at. My dear Constance, if I could find them, you should have them. They're missing, I assure you, lost for all I know. But we must have patience wherever they are. That I can bear witness to. They are missing and not to be found. You must learn patience, my dear. For though we lose our fortune, we should not lose our patience. See me, how calm I am? Aye, people are generally calm at the misfortune of others. We shall soon find them. In the meantime, you shall make use of my garnets till your jewels are found. I detest garnets. I will get them. I dislike them of all things. Don't be a fool. If she gives you the garnets, take what you can get. The jewels are your own already. I have stolen them out of her bureau, and she doesn't know it. Fly to your Hastings. He'll tell you more of this matter. Leave me to manage here. My dear cousin. Vanish. She's here, and she's missed them already. Right. Confusion, thieves, robbers, we are cheated, broke open, undone. What's the matter, Mama? My bureau has been broke open, the jewels are taken out, and I am undone. Stick to that. Stick to that. I'll bear witness, you know. Call me to bear witness. I tell you, Tony, by all that's precious, the jewels are gone. Sure, I know they're gone, and I'm here to say so. My dearest Tony, hear me, they're gone, I say. That's right. Keep being that disturbed about it, and nobody will suspect either of us. I'll bear witness that they're gone. Oh, was ever poor woman so beset with fools on one hand and thieves on the other? I can bear witness to that. All right. So Tony's messing with her. All right. He knows, you know, he's not lied to her once. All right. If you pay careful attention to what he's saying, he has not lied to her once. He says, I'll back you up, Ma. Tell her they're lost, they're gone, and I'll bear witness that they've been taken. And he can. He says, I can swear that I saw them taken with my own eyes because he took them. All right? And after that, you know, he lets Constance in on it and tells her to get lost. Hastings has got the jewels. I'll cover for you guys. And then his mother comes in ready to rip her hair out because the jewels are gone. And Tony's just sitting there playing dumb. I know they're gone, Ma. I know, Mama. Act that upset about it. Yeah. Do just like that. And he gives a little nod and a wink to the audience. I can bear witness to that. All right. Enter Mrs. Hardcastle and the maid. What a character that brother of mine is. To send them to this house as an inn. I don't wonder at Mr. Marlowe's behavior. But what's more, as you passed by in that dress you have on now, Mr. Marlowe asked me if you were the barmaid. He mistook you for the barmaid, madam. Did he? Then as I'm alive, I'm going to keep the fun alive. Are you sure he didn't remember my face or size? Certain of it. I think so, too. For though we spoke for some time together, his fears were such that he never once looked at me. Indeed, if he had, my bonnet would have kept him from seeing my face. Are you sure you can act your part? Can you disguise your voice? He has to mistake that too now, you know. Never fear. I think I know how to speak bar language. Did your honor call? Attend the gentleman there. Pipe and tobacco for the squire. It will do, madam. But he's here. Marlowe comes in. All right, so Kate is in the loop now. She knows why Marlowe is acting the way he is. He thinks he's at an inn. And admittedly, that's no excuse for his behavior. You know, you don't go into a hotel and just start raising hell like you own the place. You act decent, all right? He's not. But she has changed into this more plain dress, and because he never really got a good look at her face, because he was scared to death of her, he thought in passing that she was a bartender. All right. And he's trying to get another drink. All right. And she's going to play that part and see if she can see this other, more aggressive side of him that other people keep seeing. All right. What an end this is. I have scarcely a moment's peace. If I go to the best room there, I find my host with his stories. If I fly to the gallery, there we have my hostess, with all her courtesy. Finally, I have a moment to myself, and now for some thought. Did you call, sir? Did your honor call? As for Miss Hardcastle, she's much too serious for me. Did your honor call? No, child. Besides, from the glimpse I had of her, I think she squints. I'm sure, sir, I heard the bell ring. No, no. I have pleased my father, however, by coming down here, and tomorrow I'll please myself by returning. Perhaps the other gentleman called, sir. I tell you, no. I should be glad to know, sir. No, no, I tell you. Looks her full in the face. All right? He gets his first good, hard, solid look at her. And she's not hard to look at. All right? Yes, child. I think I did call. I wanted... See, child, you are a real beauty. Oh, law, sir, you'll make me ashamed. I never saw a more devilish eye. Lively devilish eye. Yes, yes, my dear, I did call. Suppose I should call for a taste, just by way of trial, of the nectar of your lips. Might I be disappointed in that? Nectar? Nectar. That's a drink there's no call for in these parts. French, I suppose. We keep no French wines here, sir. Of true English growth, I assure you. Then it's odd I should not know it. We brew all sorts of wines in this house, and I have lived here these 18 years. 18 years! Why, one would think, child, that you kept a bar before you were born. How old are you? Oh, sir, I must not tell my age. They say women in music should never be dated. To guess at this distance, you can't be much above 40. Yet nearer, I think not so old. By coming close to some women, they look younger still. But when we come very close indeed, and he tries to plant one on her. Pray, sir, keep your distance. One would think you wanted to know a person's age as they do horses by checking their teeth. I protest, child. If you keep me at this distance, how is it possible you and I can ever be acquainted? And who wants to be acquainted with you? I want no such acquaintance, not I. I'm sure you didn't treat Miss Hardcastle a while ago in this flirtatious manner. Before her, you looked embarrassed and kept bowing to the ground. Before Miss Hardcastle, child. No, she's only an awkward squinting thing. No. I find you don't know me. I laughed and cheered her up a little, but I was unwilling to be as serious as she. Then, sir, you're a real favorite among the ladies? Yes, my dear, great favorite. And yet, I don't really see what they find in me. At the ladies' club in town, I'm called their agreeable rattle. Rattlechild is not my real name, but one I'm known by. My name is Solomons. Mr. Solomons, at your service, my dear. Wait, sir. You were introducing me to your club, not to yourself. And you're a great favorite there, you say. Yes, my dear. There's Mrs. Mantrap, Lady Betty Blackleg, the Countess of Sligo, Mrs. Longhorns, Miss Betty Buckskin, and your humble servant to keep up the spirits of the place. Then it's a very merry place, I suppose. Yes, as merry as cards, supper, and women can make me. And their agreeable rattle. Egad, I don't quite like this talk. She looks knowing, I think. You laugh, child. I can't help laughing when I think what little time all those ladies have for their work or their family. All's well, she doesn't laugh at me. Do you ever work, child? Aye, sure, there's not a pillow or quilt in the whole house but they can bear witness to that. Oh, so? Then you must show me your embroidery. I embroider and draw patterns myself a little. If you want a judge of your work, you must apply to me. And he grabs her and starts trying to haul her upstairs. All right? Now, this whole exchange, and again, this is much tamer than what's actually in the play. Okay? First off, Marlowe comes in and he's just aggravated with everybody in his house. He's the innkeeper's wife, Mrs. Hardcastle. She's bugging him. Mr. Hardcastle, he's bugging him. So on and so forth. And he just wants some space. He just wants some time to himself. And Kate is basically trying to get his attention. He keeps blowing her off until finally, she's wearing probably an Empire waist dress, which would have been the proper dress at the time period, which basically, well, puts everything up front on display. Yeah. And she pretty much just bends over and does this number. Did you call? And Marlowe turns around, and there's the display right there in front of his nose. And all of a sudden, he changes 180 degrees. It's like Jekyll and Hyde. Marlowe's gone, and the rattle is here, as he calls himself. And he's literally all over her. Within 30 seconds, he's going in for the kiss. And Kate, she's laughing. She can't believe this is the same guy she met, 2 hours ago? An hour ago? And he's just an entirely different person. He tells her, he's got a nickname, which is the Rattle. Back at the ladies' club back in London, he's called the Rattle. And he likes to rattle around with Mrs. Mantrap and the Countess of Sligo and the Miss Betty Buckskin and all these sort of women. And he gives her a fake name, too. He says that his name is Solomons. All right. This ladies' club, where he says he can get supper and play cards and be entertained by the ladies, is a very high-class, upscale brothel, a whorehouse. All right. And Kate is just laughing her head off. She cannot believe this is the same guy. And while she's laughing, Marlowe looks at the audience and says, "What is she laughing about? She isn't laughing at me, is she?" And he turns to her and he says, "What are you laughing over?" And she says, "I'm just having trouble imagining those women having time to get any work done." And Marlowe says, "Oh, is that all?" And then he looks at her and he says, "Do you ever work, child?" All right. And I don't know if Kate gets it or not. I really don't know. But she says, "Yes, every pillow and quilt can attest to the quality of my work." And Marlowe goes, "Cha-ching!" All right. And he says, well, let's go upstairs and check out the quality of your work. And starts trying to haul her upstairs. At which point, Mr. Hardcastle walks in. He's done put his hands on my little girl. All right. Aye, but the colors don't look well by candlelight. You shall see all in the morning. Why not now, my angel? Such beauty fires up beyond my powers to resist. Oh, no, the innkeeper here. My old luck. And he leaves. So, madam. So I find this is your modest lover. This is your humble admirer who keeps his eyes on the ground and only adored at a distance. Kate, aren't you ashamed to deceive your father so? Trust me, dear Papa, he's still the modest man I took him for. You'll be convinced of it soon, I promise. But didn't I see him seize your hand? Didn't I see him haul you about like a milkmaid? And now you talk to me of his respect and modesty. But soon I'll convince you of his modesty. If you see that his faults will pass off with time, and that his virtues will improve with age, I hope you'll forgive him. This girl would actually make me run mad. I tell you, I'll not be convinced. Rather, I am convinced. My son-in-law, madam, must have very different qualifications. Sir, I ask only this evening to convince you. You shall not have half the time. I have thoughts of turning him out of my house this very hour. Give me that hour then, and I hope to satisfy you. Well, an hour let it be then. But I'll have no trifling with your father. All fair and open, do you hear me? Of course, sir. I have always considered your commands to be your kindness. All right. Mr. Hardcastle, as far as he's concerned, his position is cemented. He already did not care for Charles Marlowe. Now he's done tried to manhandle his daughter. And I think his reaction is pretty much what any dad's would have been. He's gone. If I had to get the shotgun and drive him out, he's gone. But Kate, on the other hand, she liked it. She liked this more aggressive, flirtatious side of him. She liked the bad boy. And she was all for, pursuing this and seeing where it could go. She wasn't ready to go upstairs with him, but yeah, she wants to explore this other side of his personality. And so she begs her dad for just 1 hour, just one more hour, to reconcile these discrepancies. And Mr. Hardcastle, amazingly enough, willing suspension of disbelief, like we talked about, says yes. Remember that willing suspension of disbelief is where something unlikely or impossible happens, but you go along with it because if you don't, the story comes to a halt. In a real-life situation, Marlowe would be out on his ear. All right? Any dad in the world at this point would be like, get out. All right? But he gives his daughter 1 hour to reconcile this discrepancy. All right? Act 4. Hastings and Constance come in. You surprised me. Sir Charles Marlowe expected here this night? Where have you got your information? You may depend upon it. I just saw his letter to Mr. Hardcastle. Sir Charles writes that he intends setting out a few hours after his son. Then my Constance, all must be completed before he arrives. He knows me. If he should find me here, he might tell my plans to the rest of the family. The jewels, I hope, are safe. Yes, I sent them to Marlowe. He keeps the keys of our baggage. In the meantime, I'll go prepare for our elopement. I've had the promise of a fresh pair of horses. Well, success be with you. In the meantime, I'll go amuse my aunt with an old story of a violent passion for my cousin. All right, so their plan, the subplot is still proceeding apace. They're still trying to get out of there so they can elope. But we've got a new wrinkle. Sir Charles Marlowe, Marlowe's dad, is on his way to check on the kids. This is a long play, and oftentimes people get confused because they think it's happening over several nights. But no, this is one single night. All right. The play has a secondary title. It's not posted in most in your books, but it's called The Mistakes of the Night. All this happens in one night, and it's about a silly set of mistakes. All right. And Marlowe followed by a servant. I wonder what Hastings could mean by sending a valuable box of jewels to keep for him. Have you deposited the box with the landlady as I ordered you? Have you put it into her own hands? Yes, Your Honor. She said she'd keep it safe, did she? Yes, those are her very words. I'll keep it safe enough. They're safe, however. What a set of people in this inn. That little barmaid, though, she runs in my head most strangely. She's mine, she must be, or I'm greatly mistaken. All right, now consider what has happened. All right, Hastings gave the jewels to Marlowe for safekeeping. Told him to lock him up in their luggage. Marlowe decides that is not a safe place for this box of jewels, which he doesn't question where Marlowe got this box of jewels, with suspension of disbelief. Instead, he gives it to a servant to give to the innkeeper's wife to lock up in a place of safety. Now, in our little excerpt of this, Mrs. Hardcastle doesn't question of the servant, where did you get my stolen box of jewels? All right. In the actual play, she does question him, but is apparently satisfied or doesn't get the opportunity to look into it too closely. It's still the same thing again. She should have gone off the deep end wondering, how did this servant come by my jewel box? But, I'll just kind of get swept under the rug and we move on. Willing suspension of disbelief. All right. Enter Hastings. Bless me, Marlowe here, and looking happy, too. Give me joy, George, crown me. After all, we modest fellows don't always lack success among the women. But what success? Didn't you see that tempting, brisk, lovely little thing that runs about the house with a bunch of keys? Well, and what then? She's mine, you rascal, you. Such fire, such motion, such lips, such eyes, but egad, she wouldn't let me kiss them. But are you so sure, so very sure of her? Why, man, she talked of showing me her embroidery upstairs. Well, we'll have to see what happens. You have taken care, I hope, of the box I sent you to lock up. It's in safety. Yes, it's safe enough. I have taken care of it. But how could you think our luggage a place of safety? Ah, I have taken even better care of it. I have what? I have sent it to the landlady to keep for you. To the landlady? The landlady? You did? Wasn't I right? He must not see my uneasiness. You seem a little disturbed, I think. Surely nothing has happened. No, nothing. I was never in better spirits in all my life. After all, the jewels are safe, as in a miser's purse. So now all hopes of fortune are at an end, and we must elope without it. Well, Charles, I'll leave you your pretty barmaid. May you be as successful for yourself as you have been for me. Thanks, George. I ask for no more. All right, Mr. Hardcastle comes in. I no longer know my own house. It's all turned topsy-turvy. His servants have got drunk already. I'll stand it no longer. And yet, for my respect for his father, I'll be calm. Mr. Marlowe, I have submitted to your rudeness for more than 4 hours. I see no likelihood of its coming to an end. I am the master here, sir, and as I desire that you and your drunken pack leave my house directly. Leave your house? Surely you cannot be serious. And at such a time of night, and such a night. I tell you, sir, I'm serious. I say this house is mine, sir. This house is mine, and I command you to leave it directly. Young man, listen. From your father's letter to me, I was led to expect a well-bred, modest man as a visitor here. But now I find you no better than a bully. I tell you, Sir Charles will be here soon, and he shall hear all of it. How's this? Surely I have not mistaken the house. Everything looks like an inn. The servants cry, coming, the barmaid too, to attend us. But she's here, and she will tell me more. So apparently the hour has passed. Mr. Hardcastle had told Kate he would give her an hour to rectify things. In that hour, apparently things got worse. His Marlowe's servants got ripped out of the frame. Marlowe's being Marlowe. In the play, it's actually worse. He pretty much tells Mr. Hardcastle, no, I'm not going anywhere. And while I'm under this roof, this house is mine, not yours, for as long as I choose to stay here. And when Mr. Hardcastle says, fine, your dad's on the way. I'll let him deal with you. Finally, Marlowe starts to get a clue. The bulb starts trying to flicker on over his head. Kate comes in. Why so fast, child? A word with you. Let it be short, then. I'm in a hurry. I believe he begins to find out his mistake. Child, answer me one question. Who are you, and what may your business in this house be? A relation of the family, sir. What? A poor relation? Yes, sir. A poor relation appointed to keep the keys and to see that the guests lack for nothing in my power to give them. That is, you act as the barmaid of this inn. Inn? What brought that into your head? Does one of the best families in the county keep an inn? Oh, Mr. Hardcastle's house, an inn. Mr. Hardcastle's house. Is this Mr. Hardcastle's house, child? Aye, sure. Who else would it be? So all's out in the open. I have been fooled for some reason. I shall be laughed at forever. To mistake this house of all others for an inn, and my father's old friend for an innkeeper. What a rude bully must he take me for. What a silly puppy do I find myself. There again, may I be hanged, my dear, but I mistook you for a common barmaid, and you're really a relation of Mr. Hardcastle's. Dear me, I'm sure there was nothing in my behavior to make you think. Nothing, my dear, nothing. I was in for a list of mistakes. My stupidity saw everything the wrong way. But it's over. This house I'll no more show my face in. I hope, sir, I have done nothing to displease you. I'm sure I should be sorry to anger any gentleman who said so many nice things to me. I'm sure I should be very sorry if he would left the family upon my account. By heaven, she weeps. This is the first sign of tenderness I've ever had from a modest woman, and it touches me. Excuse me, my lovely girl. You are the only part of the family I leave with pain. But the difference of our birth, fortune, and education makes an honorable match impossible. And I could never think of bringing ruin upon one whose only fault was being too lovely. Generous man. I now begin to admire him. But I'm sure my family is as good as Mr. Hardcastle's, and though I'm poor, that's no great misfortune. Why, until this moment, I never thought that it was bad to lack a fortune. And why now, my pretty one? Because it puts me at a distance from a person who, if I had 1,000 pounds, I would give it all to. This girl bewitches me. If I stay, I'm undone. I must make one bold effort and leave her. Your words, my dear, touch me most tenderly. If I could live for myself alone, I could easily fix my choice. But I owe too much to the opinion of the world, too much to the authority of a father. I can scarcely speak of how all this affects me. Farewell. I never knew half his merit till now. He shan't go. Not if I can help it. I'll still keep the character in which I stoop to conquer. But I'll tell all to my father, who can perhaps laugh him out of his plans. Okay, so Marlowe is finally in the loop. All right. He knows where he is. He knows who the innkeeper is. And he is, just as Hastings predicted, so embarrassed he's offered getting out of the house right now, especially before his dad can show up. However, the little barmaid. He likes the little barmaid. He doesn't want to leave the little barmaid. However, as he puts it, he has to leave her. We've talked about, how your position in society in this time period was extremely important, particularly if you were from a family that had money. Your parents, particularly your father probably, would control who you married, all right, and for what reasons. Love was usually a secondary consideration. And he pretty much knows or thinks his dad would not be down with him hooking up with a poor relation of the Hardcastle family who is penniless. All right? It was not at all uncommon for, say, the wealthy family to take in cousins from smaller related families, but not well off, into their households. And even though you shared blood with them, even though you were related to them, you were family, you weren't that good a family. You're one of us, but you're not one of us, right? And they would be given some sort of position or responsibility within the family. And that would be seen as, us doing good charity for our less fortunate family members. We're going to put them to work and put a roof over their head and clothes on their back and feed them. But they're going to have to work for their position. All right? I'm going to pause just long enough to go get something to drink. Okay, I'm back. All right? On 170, all right, Tony and Constance come in. You may steal for yourselves the next time. I have done my duty. My mother has got the jewels again. That's a sure thing. But she believes it was all a mistake of the servants. My dear cousin, you surely won't forsake us in this distress. If she suspects I am going off, I shall certainly be locked up, or sent to my Aunt Pettigrew's, which is 10 times worse. But what can I do? I've got you a pair of horses that will fly. Here she comes. We must act our parts a little bit more, or she'll suspect us. They sit on the couch and they levy-dovey and canoodle and cuddle. All right. Mrs. Hardcastle comes in. Well, I was greatly annoyed, to be sure, but my son tells me it was all a mistake of the servants. What do I see? Fondling together as I'm alive? Have I caught you, my pretty doves? Cousin Tony promises to give us more of his company at home. Indeed, he shan't leave us any more. I'm sure I always loved Cousin Con's hazel eyes and her pretty long fingers. Oh, pretty creature. He would charm the bird from the tree. I was never so happy before. The jewels, my dear Con, shall be yours. You shall have them. Isn't he a sweet boy, my dear? You shall be married tomorrow. All right, that exploded in their faces, didn't it? All right. They're fussing at each other, blaming each other for the loss of the jewels. They see her coming, and they sit on the couch, and they act like they're, getting along better than she's ever seen them before. And she sees them getting along better than she's ever seen them before, and she's like, I'm pulling the trigger on this right now. All right? And she goes out of the room, and they just both look at each other like, ah! All right? The servant comes in. I have a letter for your worship. Give it to my mamma. She reads all my letters first. I had orders delivered into your own hands. Undone, undone. A letter to him from Hastings. I know the hand. If my aunt sees it, we are ruined forever. Here, mother. How's this? Dear Tony, I am now waiting for Miss Neville at the bottom of the garden, but I find my horses are yet unable to perform the journey. I expect you'll assist us with a pair of fresh horses as promised. Speed is necessary, as the hag, your mother, will otherwise suspect me. Yours, Hastings. Give me patience, my rage chokes me. I hope, madam, and you great oaf, were you too joined against me? But I'll defeat all your plots in a moment. As for you, madam, since you have a fresh pair of horses ready, you would be cruel to disappoint them. So, if you please, forget your plan for running away with your Hastings. Instead, prepare this very moment to run off with me. Your old Aunt Pedigree will keep you secure, I am sure. And you, my son, may mount your horse and guard us upon the way. So now I'm completely ruined. That's a sure thing. What better could be expected from such a stupid fool as you? No, miss, it were your own cleverness, not my stupidity. You were so nice and smiling at me, I thought you could never be making believe. And her words, married tomorrow. Hastings comes in. So, sir, I find from my servant that you have shown my letter and betrayed us. Ask Miss there who betrayed you. It was her doing, not mine. Marlowe comes in. So, I have been laughed at here among you, made to look the fool, insulted. And there, sir, is the gentleman who caused every bit of this madness. Bah! What can I say to him, a mere boy, an idiot, a poor fool not worth my breath? And yet with enough evil tricks to make himself merry at all our embarrassments. Servant comes back. My mistress desires you'll get ready immediately. Madam, the horses are ready. Your hat and things are in the next room. We are to go 30 miles before morning. Well, I'll come presently. Was it all done, sir, to make me look ridiculous? Depend upon it, sir, I shall expect an explanation. Mr. Hastings, Mr. Marlowe, why will you increase my distress with this silly dispute? I beg you. Your cloak, madam. My mistress is impatient. Oh, Mr. Marlowe, if you knew all my poor Hastings has been through, I'm sure you would change your anger into pity. I don't know what I know. Forgive me, madam. George, forgive me. You know my hasty temper. The torture of my situation is my only excuse. Miss Neville? Constance! Why, Constance, I say! I'm coming! My heart, how can I stand this? To be so near happiness and such happiness. You see now, young gentleman, the results of your tricks. What might be amusement to you is here disappointment and even distress. Egad, I have it. It's here. Your hands, yours and yours. Meet me 2 hours from now at the bottom of the garden. If you don't find Tony Lumpkin a better fellow than you thought, I'll give you my best horse and bet bouncer in the bargain. Come along. All right, so almost everything's out of the bag now. All right? Everybody knows everything that's going on, with the exception of Tony, not Tony, but Marlowe still not knowing who the little barmaid is. And everybody's having a great big flaming fight. Everybody's blaming everybody for everything going wrong. Until finally, just almost, as it says, it comes out almost out of a trance and says, I've got it. I've got it. I can fix everything. Just give me 2 hours, and if you can't, I'll give you my best horse and my best girl to go with it. All right? So Act 5, last act. All right? Scene 1, the house. Hastings and the servant. You saw the old lady and Miss Neville drive off, you say? Yes, Your Honor. They went off in a coach, and Master Tony Lumpkin went on horseback. They're 30 miles off by this time. Then all my hopes are over. Yes, sir. Old Sir Charles Marlowe has arrived. He and the old gentleman in the house have been laughing at young Marlowe's mistakes. Oh, they're coming this way. Then I must not be seen. So now to my fruitless appointment at the bottom of the garden. This is about the time. Sir Charles and Mr. Hardcastle enter. The tone in which he gave me his commands, and yet he might have seen something in me above the common innkeeper too. Yes, Dick, but he mistook you for an uncommon innkeeper. Well, I'm too happy now to think of anything but joy. Yes, my dear friend, this union of our families will make our personal friendship hereditary. And though my daughter's fortune is but small, why, Dick, will you talk to me of fortune? My son has more than a little money already. He can want nothing but a good and virtuous girl to share his happiness and increase it. If they like each other, as you say they do. If, man! I tell you they do like each other. My daughter as good as told me so. But girls are apt to flatter themselves, you know. I saw him grasp her hand in the warmest manner myself, and here he comes to put you out of your ifs. I come, sir, once more to ask pardon for my very strange conduct. It was nothing, boy. You take it too seriously. An hour or two of laughing with my daughter will set all to rights again. She'll never like you the worse for it. Sir, I shall always be proud of her approval. Approval is too cold a word, Mr. Marlowe. If I'm not deceived, you have something more than just approval from her right now. You understand me? Really, sir, I have not that happiness. Come now, boy, I'm an old fellow, but I know what's what as well as a younger man. I know what has passed between you two. Sir, nothing has passed between us but the most profound respect and serious discussion. You can't think, sir, that my impudence to you has been passed on to the rest of the family. Impudence? No, I don't say that. It's not quite impudence. Girls like to be flirted with and rumpled a little, too, sometimes. But she has told no tales, I assure you. I never gave her the slightest cause. Well, I like modesty in its place, but this is overacting, my young gentleman. You may be honest with us. Your father and I will like you the better for it. Dear sir, I protest, sir. I see no reason why you two should not be joined as fast as the parson can tie you. But, sir, hear me. Your father approves a match and I admire it. But why won't you hear me? By all that's just and true, I never gave Miss Hardcastle the most distant hint of affection. We had but one interview, and that was formal and uninteresting. This fellow's formal, modest impudence is beyond bearing. And you never grasped her hand or made any talk of love. As heaven is my witness, no! He storms off mad. I'm astonished at of his sincerity with which he parted. And I'm astonished that his odd behavior goes on and on. I dare pledge my life and honor upon his truth. Here comes my daughter, and I would stake my happiness upon her truth. So the two dads, they've been comparing notes. And Mr. Hardcastle is in the loop. He knows why Marlowe was acting the way he was. And apparently everything has been forgiven, even as he puts it, the rumpling of his daughter. Again, if it was my daughter, there ain't going to be no rumpling. All right? Marlowe, when he comes in to apologize yet again, is completely dumbfounded by the exuberance with which Mr. Hardcastle is, saying, you like her, she likes you, why don't you guys go ahead and tie that knot? And, he's like, we've only met the once. It was horrible. Why are you guys pushing this? All right? And then there's a definite, very creepy factor going on here with Mr. Hardcastle because he's like, I know what's been going on with you two. I do. I'm an old fellow, but I know what's what. Can you imagine anything in the world more creepy than that? Your potential father-in-law and you talking about your relationship with his daughter. No. All right? And finally, he gets so frustrated, he just walks off. All right? He's done with it. Right? Kate comes in. All right? Kate, come here, child. Answer us sincerely. Has Mr. Marlowe made to you any show of love and affection? The question is very abrupt, sir, but since you require sincerity, I think he has. You see? And tell me, madam, have you and my son had more than one interview? Yes, sir, several. You see? But did he talk of love? Much, sir. Amazing. And all this in earnest? In earnest. Now, my friend, I hope you are satisfied? And how did he behave, madam? As most admirers do, said some nice things about my face, talked much of his lack of merit and the greatness of mine, mentioned his heart and gave a short speech and pretended, indeed, no. I know his conversation with women to be most modest. This bold, talkative manner by no means describes him. I am confident he never sat for the picture. And what, sir, if I should convince you of my sincerity? If you and my papa in about half an hour will place yourselves behind that screen, you shall hear him declare his passion to me in person. Agreed. And if I find him what you describe, all my happiness in him must have an end. And if you don't find him what I describe, I fear my happiness will never have a beginning. Right? Kate gives him an entirely different story than what Marlowe did. And Sir Charles can't deal with it. He's only ever seen the gentlemanly side of his son, the bashful side of his son. He ain't never seen the rattle. All right? So he has a very hard time accepting this. So they're going to set him up. There's going to be an ambush. They're going to hide. Kate's going to meet with him. And he's not going to be talking to Kate. He's going to be talking to the little barmaid. All right? Hang on one second. Okay, sorry about that, guys. All right, scene 2. What an idiot I am to wait here for a fellow who probably takes great delight in tricking me. Tony comes in, all covered in mud. All right? My honest friend, I now find that you are a man of your word. I am your friend. But where did you leave your fellow travelers? Are they in safety? Leave them? Well, where should I leave them but where I found them? This is a riddle. Riddle me this then. What goes round and round the house and never touches the house? I'm still astray. You shall hear. First, I took them round and round the house on this dark night. They've been within 5 miles these 2 hours. And at the end, I nearly dumped them in the horse pond over there. By no accident, I hope. No, only Mother's frightened. She thinks herself 40 miles off. So if your own horses are ready, you can whip off with Cousin Con toward France, and I'll be sure that no one here will follow you. My dear friend, how shall I ever show you my gratitude? All right. So Tony took his mom on a wild goose chase, and Constance. He kept them within 5 miles of the house the entire time, but he took them down they're all dirt roads, but every dirt road, deer trail, hunting path he could find, everywhere he could get the carriage through, and got them good and lost. All right, this is 1773. They're out in the country. There are no street lights. All right, if you didn't have the light of the moon and the stars on a clear night, it was dark. All right, and it was very easy to get lost. All right. And so he brought them back to the house, crashed them into their own horse pond, and Mrs. Hardcastle has no idea where the heck she is. All right. Speaking of which, oh Tony, I'm killed, shook, battered to death. I shall never survive it. Alas, Mama, it was all your own fault. You would be for running away by night, not knowing 1 inch of the way. I wish we were at home again. I never met so many accidents on such a short journey. Overturned in a ditch, stuck fast in the mud, jolted to a jelly, and at last to lose our way. Where do you think we are, Tony? By my guess, we should be upon Crack Skull Common, about 40 miles from home. There's a wonderful bit in the original story that they leave out, and I don't know why they left it out, but Tony basically Tony does scare her with the threat of, robbers. He says, well, the 5 robbers who used to operate around here, 3 of them have been hanged. The other 2, they probably wouldn't bother with us. And then he messes with her. Oh, is that someone over there? Oh, did I hear something over there? And then when Mr. Hardcastle enters, he acts as if this might be the robber. And I don't know why they leave it out, because it's just a funny little piece. I thought I heard a voice down here. I'd be glad to know where it came from. Mr. Hardcastle, as I'm alive. My fears blinded me. But who, my dear, could have expected to meet you here in this frightful place so far from home? What has brought you to follow us? Surely, Dorothy, you have not lost your wits. So far from home, when you're within 40 yards of your own door. This is one of your old tricks, you rascal, you. Don't you know the gate and the mulberry tree? And don't you know the horse pond, my dear? That's our horse pond? Then I shall remember the horse pond as long as I am alive. I've caught my death in it. And it is to you, you graceless son of mine, that I owe all this? I shall teach you to abuse your mother, I will. Now, mother, all the county says you spoiled me, and so you must take the results of it. I'll spoil you, I will. And she chases him off the stage. There is some sense, however, in his reply. All right. Hastings and Constance come in. My dear Constance, if we delay a moment, all is lost forever. Pluck up but a little courage, and we shall soon be out of her reach. No, I find it impossible. My spirits are so sunk with all I have suffered. I am unable to face any new danger. Let us fly, my charmer. Let us date our happiness from this very moment. Forget your fortune. Love and joy will increase what we possess beyond the fortune of a king. No, Mr. Hastings, no. Good sense once more comes to my relief, and I will obey it. In my moment of passion, fortune may be despised, but it can never be regained. I'm determined to appeal to Mr. Hardcastle's sense of justice and fair play. I have no hopes, but since you insist, I must obey you. So after all that plotting and scheming, after all that, right here at the last minute, when they can actually get away, Constance gets not cold feet, maybe, as she says, an attack of common sense. She has this fortune in jewelry. It's hers. She does not want to leave it. So she says, let's go back and see if Mr. Hardcastle will intervene for us. And Hastings just goes, okay, fine. We'll go talk to Mr. Hardcastle. Scene 3, a room at Mr. Hardcastle's. This is the last scene. All right, I need to pause again. I am sorry about this, guys. Okay, I'm back. Scene 3, last scene. Let's knock this thing out. Enter Hardcastle, Sir Charles, and Miss Hardcastle. What a situation I am in. If what you say is true, I shall then find a guilty son. But if what he says is true, then I shall lose the girl I most wanted for a daughter. I am proud of your approval. To show I merit it, if you place yourself as I directed, you shall hear his very declaration of love to me. But he comes. Quick, my friend, hide behind the screen. Sorry. Though prepared for setting out, I come once more to say goodbye. Till this moment, I never knew the pain I'd feel in separation. I believe your suffering cannot be very great, sir. Why, you can so easily remove the pain. Staying a day or two longer perhaps might bring some relief. This girl every moment improves upon me. That must not be, madam. I have already played too long with my heart. My very pride begins to submit to my passion. The difference between us in education and fortune and in the anger of a parent begin to lose their weight. Nothing can ease the situation now, but that I leave. Then go, sir. I'll not detain you. Remember, though, that my family is as good as hers you came down to visit, and my education, I hope, is not inferior. But what are these things what are these things worth without an equal fortune? I must be content only with the sight of your back as you leave, while all your serious aims are fixed on fortune. Ah, what is this? Shh! Make no noise. I'll bet my cape covers him with confusion at last. By the heavens, madam, your fortune was ever my smallest thought. Your beauty first caught my eye. Who can see that without emotion? Even now, every moment that I converse with you brings some new attraction. What can it mean? He amazes me. I told you how it would be. Hush! I am now determined to stay, madam. The fortune means nothing, and I think I know my father's taste in women. When he sees you, his approval is certain. No, Mr. Marlowe, I will not. I cannot detain you. How could I agree to a connection with the slightest room for doubt? How could I take advantage of a passing passion to load you with confusion? Do you think I could ever enjoy my own happiness by lessening yours? By all that's good, I can have no happiness but what's in your power to give me. I will stay, even against your wishes. And even if you shun me, my behavior will make up for the levity of my past conduct. Sir, I must beg you to change your mind. As our acquaintance began, so let it end, with no strong attachment. Once I might have given an hour or two to levity, but seriously, Mr. Marlowe, do you think I could ever agree to a connection? What would people think? I might appear greedy for money and you lacking in judgment. Kneels down. Does this look like poor judgment? No, madam. Your merit only increases my confidence that my judgment is... I can hold it no longer. Charles, how have you deceived me? Is this what you call your uninteresting conversation? Your cold behavior, your formal manner. What have you to say now? That I am all amazement. What can this mean? It means that you can say and unsay things as you wish. That you can court a lady in private and deny it in public. That you have one story for us and another for my daughter. Daughter? This lady, your daughter? Yes, sir, my only daughter, my Kate. Who else should she be? The devil. Yes, sir, the very same tall, squinting... Oh, wait, wrong person. Yes, sir, the very La 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 la. Yes, sir, the very same... My tongue's getting tied. Yes, sir, the very small... I'm rushing. But I'm kind of caught up in the story, so I can't help it. Yes, sir, the very same tall, squinting lady you were pleased to take me for. She that you approached as the shy, mild, and serious man, and also as the bold, confident rattle of the ladies' club. I can't stand this. This is worse than death. In which of your characters shall we now address you? As a gentleman who looks on the ground, speaks just to be heard, and hates hypocrisy? Or as the loud, confident creature that rattles away with Mrs. Mantrap and Miss Betty Buckskin till 3 a.m? Oh, curse my noisy head, I must be gone. By the hand of my body you shall not go. It was all a mistake, and I am happy to find it so. You shall not go, sir, I tell you. I know she'll forgive you. Won't you forgive him, Kate? We all forgive you. Take courage, man. All right. Mrs. Hardcastle and Tony come in. So, they are gone off. Let them go. I care not. Who gone? My niece Constance and her gentleman, Mr. Hastings. Who? My honest George Hastings? As worthy a fellow as lives, and the girl could not have made a better choice. Then by the hand of my body I am proud of the connection. Well, if he has taken away the lady, he has not taken away her fortune. That remains in the family to make up for her loss. Surely, Dorothy, you would not be so money-minded. And that's my affair, not yours. But you know, if your son, when he comes of age, refuses to marry his cousin, her whole fortune is then her own. But he's not of age, and Constance has not thought proper to wait for his refusal. Hastings and Constance come in. What? Return so soon? I begin not to like it. Sir, I regret my recent attempt to fly off with your niece. Let my present confusion be my punishment. We have now come back to appeal to your justice and your humanity. In an hour of folly, I was even ready to give up my fortune to marry Mr. Hastings, but now I am recovered and appeal to your tenderness. Oh, this all sounds like the whining end of a modern novel. Be it what it will, I'm glad they've come back to make things right. Come here, Tony boy. Do you refuse to marry this lady I now offer you? What means my refusing? You know I can't refuse her till I'm of legal age, father. Boy, when I thought that hiding your age was likely to lead to your improvement, I agreed with your mother's desire to keep it a secret. But since I find she turns it to a wrong end, I must now declare that you have been of legal age for 3 months. 3 months. The boy's been 21 for 3 months. Willing suspension of disbelief. We know what it means. We accept it. The story can't function without it. But this has always been a horse pill for me. And even more so since I've heard the actual stage production. It ain't 3 months. It's 3 years. And the only reason Mr. Hardcastle corrects himself and says 3 months is Mrs. Hardcastle goes, ahem, because we already know she lies about her age. The boy has been 21 for 3 months and ain't known it. And I just don't see any way this could work except for the fact that if they never gave him a birthday from the beginning, that they never acknowledged you're a year older, and if the boy just can't playing count, all right? But there it is, all right? He's been 21 for 3 months, and he didn't know it, all right? Of age. I'm of legal age, Father. More than 3 months. Then you'll see the first use I make of my liberty. Witness all men that I, Anthony Lumpkin of this place, now refuse you, Constance Neville of no place at all, for my true and lawful wife. So Constance Neville may marry whom she chooses, and Tony Lumpkin is his own man again. Oh, brave young man, my worthy friend, my undutiful child. Joy, my dear George, I give you joy sincerely. And if I could persuade my little tyrant here to accept me now, I would be the happiest man alive. Come, madam, you are now driven to the very last scene of your play acting. I know you love him. I'm sure he loves you. Now you must and shall have him. And so say I too. Mr. Marlowe, if she makes as good a wife as she has a daughter, I don't believe you'll ever regret your bargain. So now to supper. Tomorrow we shall gather all the neighborhood together, and the mistakes of the night shall be crowned with a merry morning. So, boy, take her. And as you have been mistaken in the mistress, my wish is that you'll never be mistaken in the wife. So, there it is. The guys get the girls. We have a happy ending, except for Mrs. Hardcastle, who lost control of everybody's money. All right? This is, you have what we consider in the modern age a traditional comedy, which is ha-ha funny. All right? And then you have the classical comedy, which is a story which might be absolutely horrible and everything that happens inside of it, but it ends happily. All right? And this is a bit of both, of course. Most of your traditional comedies, they'll have funny bits and they'll end happily. As Shakespeare in Love, the movie says, romance and a bit with a dog and a happy ending. All right? So, I think it's a cute story. The original is better. I hate that they dumbed it down like they did in this book, but there it is. That's what they did. But it's a cute story. It's enjoyable. And I think, having heard that production of it, I think, it's like all plays. It's much better performed and seen than read. And I'm by no means a professional voice actor. I just do what little bit I can to try to make it a little bit more interesting. But in any event, it's still cute. It's still funny. All right. We have a bio of Goldsmith on page 183. We think he was born in 1730. We're not sure. We know he died in 1774. So this thing, he died a year after it came out, which is kind of sad, really. Particularly when you think about the fact he was 43, 44. He wasn't old at all. All right. Young man. Youngish. It's just the guy who's 48 and looks like he's 58. All right? Anyway. Seldom has success and failure fought for the control of a person's life, as in the case of the Irish-born author Oliver Goldsmith. Early in life, Goldsmith studied religion, but he was never permitted to become a clergyman, partly because of his fun-loving and careless habits. He moved to England and studied medicine, only to fail as a doctor. He turned to teaching with no success. When he was nearly 30, he began writing. He peddled an assortment of his writings to magazines. Then, quite suddenly, a literary genius emerged. A long poem, The Deserted Village, was an instant success. The Vicar of Wakefield became the most popular novel of the 18th century. Plays he wrote, such as She Stoops to Conquer, moved audiences to tears and laughter. Goldsmith even wrote a 2-volume history of the world. Success with money did not come as easily, however. It seemed to flow through Goldsmith's fingers as quickly as it came. Some of the money he gambled away, some he simply spent on pleasures, Much he simply gave away to people in need. His habits kept him a poor man, and he died at an early age. I can relate to this guy. Today, Goldsmith lives on in his words. Like William Shakespeare, he is sometimes quoted unknowingly. In She Stoops to Conquer, for instance, you'll read the very pink of perfection and ask me no questions, and I'll tell you no, we would probably say today, lies. 2 lines of Goldsmith's poetry seem to fit his own life well. His best companions, innocence and health. His best riches, ignorance of wealth. All right? A guy who knew how to live, was not run by his money, but maybe he needed to have been a little bit more practical. Maybe he would have lived longer. Maybe we would have more from him. I hope you enjoyed the piece. As always, if you need any help with it, please contact me and I'll do whatever I can. Do the questions as normal, and I'll send you the test out just as quick as you send me the questions. Have a good night.